Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share a video about ideal accessories for the Microsoft Surface Pro 8 and Surface Laptop Studio. So if you just picked up either of these, one of the biggest enhancements of the current generation of Surface products is the addition of Thunderbolt 4. And I've been talking about this in my coverage. Those of you who already know, well, you know. But those of you that don't, I hope to give you the education you need to select the accessories that are most relevant in your life through the course of this video. So right here on the right side under the power button of the Surface Pro 8, you have two Thunderbolt 4 ports, and then on the Surface Laptop Studio, you also have two Thunderbolt 4 ports. Both of these can charge the device and also essentially unlock a world of capability in Surface products. And that's because until this generation, unfortunately, Thunderbolt was never part of the Surface language, and now it is. So what does Thunderbolt 4 let you do? Well, first and foremost, know this: Thunderbolt 4 is backwards compatible with any Thunderbolt 3 product. So if you see something that's branded as Thunderbolt 3, know it will work with either of these. That's number one. Number two, Thunderbolt 4 essentially takes what you would traditionally look at as a Type-C cable and gives it all sorts of capability that it otherwise would not have. And a good example where to start is docking. So let's say you want to use either of these with a home workstation, meaning not just working on either of the devices, but you have an external monitor, let's say a 27 or 30 plus inch 4K display. Maybe you have two of them, and you also have a keyboard and a mouse. Maybe you also have a printer that is hardwired as opposed to networked. This is where a dock is ideal with Thunderbolt, because one cable going from either of these ports to a dock like this first one I'm going to show you, this Kensington, is going to permit that single cable to not only actively charge either of these devices, but also, again, allow you to use all of those peripherals with a single cable. And setup is seamless, and when you're done, when you want to take your machine on the go, you just remove that one umbilical cord that in this case connects to this dock right here, and you're good to go. When you come back to your docking station, everything is still right in place. You connect that one cable, again, here to here or here to here, and again, you're back in business. Now, Thunderbolt 4 supports up to two 4K 60 Hz displays or one single 8K 30 Hz display. Another nice thing about Thunderbolt 4 is that you can wake up your system over its connection, something that Thunderbolt 3 didn't have at least certification for. So be aware of that. That's one of my favorite features. As you can see with this specific dock, which by the way, I started with because it's my favorite. It's also one of the most expensive, unfortunately, but it's the most modern. Over $300. I will include a link in the description. Power button right here, LEDs for activity and power. Again, that 100 watt, nearly 100 watt Thunderbolt connection, which you're going to feed to your system of choice, that will keep you juiced up while it also delivers all the capability possible that Thunderbolt brings to the table. Headphone microphone combo jack, a Type A port that will not only give you connectivity, but also has decent ampage for output for charging things like smartphones, tablets, you name it. And then a full-size UHS SD card reader. So if you're a content creator or just someone who, is an enthusiast, a hobbyist that likes to shoot photos, a great card reader built into this dock right at the front. And then on the back, by the way, before we get there, some Kensington locks, but you expect that from Kensington, no question. But on the back, that's where, to me, this dock is different. And it's not for everyone, but if you're looking to expand your Thunderbolt connectivity, that's what this dock really does. Yes, you get 3 more Type A USB ports as well as Ethernet. So if you need the security or the throughput of being hardwired, you have it. Something that obviously you can't do with either of these natively. But then instead of giving you older I/O, they're giving you 3 more Thunderbolt ports, which is really nice if you need it. Now, for me personally, this is ideal. But for many of you, you're going to want other ports. And I have another dock for that. Of course, your DC power input there, it has a fairly large brick. I'm not bringing it on camera here, but this is a really nice piece of hardware. And again, in my opinion, the best dock of its kind if it suits your needs, which again is all about extending Thunderbolt connectivity rather than giving you what I would call legacy ports, which Thunderbolt docks traditionally do, even though legacy is not the right terminology. And again, the model on this is the SD5700T. Now, if you're looking for something with even more I/O, that's where Pluggable's Thunderbolt 3 dock comes in. Now, this is presently out of stock. I will include a link if I can find one. This is another great solution, and both of these can be either vertical or horizontal, the Kensington as well. It does come with this stand. And so on the front of this Thunderbolt 3 dock, you have a full-size and micro SD card slot. So a little bit more I/O. You're starting to see how there are so many different flavors here. Then you also have a 10 gigabit connection right here, Type-C, as well as Type-A, and then a headphone microphone combo jack. Then as we go to the rear of the unit, you can see there's a lot more I/O here, but a lot less Thunderbolt. Now this one connects to your Surface Pro 8 or Surface Laptop Studio at the rear. And it also delivers, nearly, it's rated at 100 watts, but I think it's something like 96 literal. So that's another reason I like this a lot as opposed to older docks that are much less expensive. This one's around, I think, 230 retail, and Pluggable is also a solid company when it comes to their reputation and the products that they manufacture. So you can see we have a large bay here, 5 USB Type-A ports, Ethernet, and then this is all about I/O. So the previous dock I showed, clearly for video output, you're going to be using Thunderbolt. Let's say you have monitors that are a little bit older, or you just decided to spend less and they do not have Type-C input. This is where a dock like this is ideal because it has 2 full-size DisplayPort outputs as well as 2 full-size HDMI outputs. So this is, in my opinion, arguably probably better for the majority of customers. That's why I said the Kensington is my favorite, but I think the Pluggable that you're looking at now will be desirable for a broader audience that needs more general I/O, because this is more one-size-fits-all. There's no way you have a monitor that isn't going to be supported with the DisplayPort and HDMI ports you're looking at here, whereas with the Kensington, which is more expensive and more modern, it is also Thunderbolt 4, which means it can also do 8K at 30 Hertz, which I don't care about, and the majority of you won't either. This is going to be, again, I think, a better tool for the majority of users new to Thunderbolt. And of course, there is the 20-volt input for the power brick and some Kensington locks, or rather a Kensington lock there. So there are 2 docks. I also have a Sabrent, which is in use right now, which I would have brought on camera otherwise, but it is set up. And that, I will put a link in the description. That's an older dock. It'll be half the price of what you've seen here, if not less than half, but, much more affordable, $150 roughly. It could be $130 on sale. And that one, again, will work with these, but you will only get 65 watts, which is also going to be fine. But if you're after full performance, inherently one of the best ways to do it is going to be to still connect the Microsoft proprietary Connect power brick to it, get the full performance out of it, and just use the Thunderbolt, not to charge the device, but to deliver all of the connectivity options that are possible. I've also shared a dedicated video about this little guy, but I can't seem to find it for any of you to purchase, which is sad because it is really dynamic. This is the Casus Multiport Hub. It gives you, this is not Thunderbolt though, so this is really good to use with just about anything. It has HDMI out, but I don't really care about that because it does not give you 4K at 60 Hertz, so that's kind of a scratch the HDMI. But Ethernet, it gives you a full-size SD card reader as well as a micro SD card reader. You can see I've got a 512 gig card in there right now. So I do love the portability of this. We also have an audio jack, USB 3.1 Type-C port right there, 2 Type-A ports, one 3.1, one 3.0. And then on the other side, we have 100 watt power delivery, which is ideal. And then, of course, the Type-C port right there. I'm trying to pull that out. And that's where you would connect your device of choice. But then the killer feature on this, which is not something you're going to find, at least with the other docks that I just showed you, is that you can actually throw an NVMe drive in here to expand your storage. So I really like this. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like it is available through Amazon. You might be able to go direct with the Casus. I believe the retail on this was around $90 US, somewhere between that and 100. This was a Kickstarter campaign, and I think that is an ideal, incredibly portable, all-in-one solution, but that's not like these powered Thunderbolt docks that I just showed you. Now let's move on to storage. And I've got a lot of Sabrent stuff here, and I think it's ideal. So Sabrent has a lot of different flavors of Thunderbolt NVMe storage. So right here I have a few of them. Now these are older, but their performance is very good, and I will try to list or link as many of these as possible. This is a 1 terabyte Rocket Extreme. Now I think this has been supplanted with the Rocket Q Extreme, which is backwards compatible with traditional Type-C. It's not only Thunderbolt connectable. And that's one thing about early Thunderbolt external NVMe drives like these, is that they are only capable of working with Thunderbolt. And while their throughput is amazing, over a gigabyte a second, a gig and a half roughly, 1.3 to 1.5, I've done videos about these in the past, and they're fantastic to have if you're a video editor, if you're doing any photo editing, or if you just want to actually install programs to these. You can do that without any real performance hit, which is quite amazing. So, you know, historically, installing software on an external drive, not practical. With these, it is. But the drives you're going to want really aren't these, because they, for the most part, have been discontinued. The ones you're going to want are the ones I have over here, which are the Extreme Qs. Now, the Extreme Qs come in, I think they start at 1 terabyte, 2, 4, and eventually 8 terabyte, and these are the most dynamic. They have this shield, both to protect the drive as well as yourself, because they do get hot when you are operating them, you know, putting heavy loads on them. So if you are going to install software to it, like I suggested, or edit video from it, you're not going to have throughput issues, but these things will get hot. And they are expensive. This is bleeding edge technology, but thankfully now that we have Thunderbolt 4, you can actually use some of this stuff. And the irony of Surface products is that they've always been expensive, but they haven't unlocked this world. And while many people will say these are really expensive, in fact, the 8 terabyte version that I have right here is more expensive than half of the Surface Pro 8 lineup, and I believe this is the 8 terabyte, essentially my dream drive. If I had to pick one accessory to rule them all in the PC realm, it's this guy, because again, it's also backwards compatible, unlike the older generation, which only could work with Thunderbolt. This will work with any Type-C port. So Thunderbolt 4, Thunderbolt 3, USB-C 3.1, this thing is going to work across every machine. It is self-powered. All of these drives are. They do not require additional power. And again, the throughput is best in class. And Sabrent, for those of you unaware, has been in the business a long time now, and they have been pushing the envelope, making some of the best storage out there. So I highly recommend, if you're in the market for external storage, they are a good place to go. They're affordable, reputable, and the size of the drives, pretty much sky's the limit as long as you have the budget. These are expensive. You know, the 8 terabyte, last time I checked, I mean, they started at $2,000 when they launched. Now they are more affordable, but that's why I said this is more expensive than the majority of Surface Pro laptops, Surface Pro 8 tablets and Surface Laptop Studio machines. Now, when you look at these, I suggest buying this instead of jumping for additional storage in either of these, simply because Microsoft is pretty gross when it comes to internal storage capacity pricing, a la Apple. And look, they're entitled to do that. And yes, user upgradability is possible, but your money is better spent with these, because these will outlive the actual machines you're buying here, and you'll end up using this with your next Surface Pro or Mac if it supports it. Whatever machine you end up turning to, you know, these will outlive them. And that's the beauty of the Rocket Extreme Q, is that it doesn't matter if it has Thunderbolt. So whatever you move to, these will live on. Now, in the event you really want to get fancy, Sabrent makes also a dual NVMe Thunderbolt capable drive. Now, this one does require power, so that's something you need to be aware of. You can see right there the Thunderbolt connection and DC in. This comes with a power brick. I believe it's about 150 now. When I covered it when it first launched, which was, I want to say, almost a year ago, it was $230, and that's because, well, in theory, you can stick two 8 terabyte drives in here and have a 16 terabyte NVMe drive, which is phenomenal. You can also run them in a RAID if you so choose, RAID 0, RAID 1, whatever you want to do. You can see there are two lights right here. That's for hard drive activity. So in the event you decide to pick one of these up, just remember, this is, I mean, there are other brands, but Sabrent works directly with Intel. I'm not going to recommend no-name companies from China that don't partner with Intel. Sabrent is an Intel partner. That matters. Intel is responsible for Thunderbolt's existence. So that's a licensing as well as, architectural IP licensing situation. Now, getting drives in here is not the easiest. In fact, even for me with, the fingernails I have, unlocking it can be tricky. Basically, you've got to get each drive in there. It is a snug fit. I do have a dedicated video about that. But once you have them in there, if you don't plan on removing them, you're going to have a setup unlike anything else. So again, people who are editing video, or if you want to, again, this is really aimed at being not a portable solution, in my opinion. That's where you lean on these guys. But if you have it docked with something like the Kensington or the pluggable Thunderbolt 3, this is going to make for a bit of a dream setup in terms of expanding your storage to your heart's content and being able to even run a RAID if you so choose. Now, outside of Thunderbolt, let's say you want to maintain portability. This is a drive I really like, and Sabrent also makes nano drives that are tiny, but this is their rugged nano. And this is a 2 terabyte drive. Last I checked, it was around $400 US. This is not Thunderbolt, but the throughput on it is still excellent. It's still an NVMe drive, and essentially the same form factor as what is inside of the Surface Pro 8. So performance isn't as good as what you're getting in these drives. It's just inherent with the technology. But this is actually water and dust and shock resistant. So ideal for those of you that are road warriors that want something that can go anywhere, take a beating, and like I said, even get wet, and your storage is still going to be protected, aka your data. So again, this is the Rocket Nano Rugged. They have it in 1 terabyte capacities as well as 2. This is ideal if size matters to you. Those of you who are saying, I want to maintain the smallest form factor possible, well, these drives aren't exactly big, but boy, the Nano and Nano Rugged will supplant them if that really matters to you. So if performance isn't your #1 priority, and that's not to say these don't perform well, they do, but they don't perform as well as the Rocket Qs. This is not a Thunderbolt drive, so it doesn't have the throughput on the actual connectivity, let alone the performance of the drive inside it. But again, this is ideal if you're trying to keep it small and also keep it protected regardless of weather conditions and drop protection as well. So to recap, we've got a pretty robust lineup of actual NVMe drives. If you want to go the distance with something like the dual enclosure, I think that's a great idea. Not everybody needs this, but I certainly use it. It does stay in a desktop capacity though. So it's, again, not something I would travel with because it has a dedicated power brick. But if you connect it to something like, the Kensington Dock or the pluggable, I think that's a really nice setup to have. In terms of monitors, I'm not digging into that. I may end up doing another video about portable monitors. Let me know if that's something that all of you would be interested in, because after all, I think portable monitors are another great way to extend your capability with either of these machines. They're all about portability. They're all about the smallest form factor possible. And if you pair it with a touchscreen portable monitor, I think that's a great solution. Also, a 4K portable monitor. I've got 17.3-inch portable monitors, hopefully a 15.5-inch OLED portable monitor coming soon. So there are a lot of options when it comes to portable displays these days. Some of them have internal batteries, so they don't need to be powered. Some can take a signal and be powered from this. Having Thunderbolt is going to be an advantage when it comes to portable display tech. But that would be a separate video for another day. Either way, I think these are great options. And, hopefully I'll find something for this Casus, because I do think it's ideal for keeping things small, especially if you're going to throw an NVMe in there. but this rounds things out. And then, if in the event you really would like some headphones, don't forget that, of course, Microsoft has their very own line of Surface headphones as well. Granted, I don't have the latest and greatest. They're still pretty damn good, and of course, they fit the entire design language of the Surface lineup perfectly. How can you go wrong? But that pretty much rounds things out. Ideal accessories. The only thing I didn't talk about were enclosures. If you wanted to get, just general enclosures to put your own drives in, that's another story for another day. I think this is a really good starting point. Again, I will try to give you links for everything you see here so that in the event you want to pick up any of these to complement your setup right now, you are able to do so. But I think this pretty much gives you as good an idea as you're possibly going to get, only being roughly nearly 2 weeks in with your brand new Surface device. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. Hit that like button, and as usual, please feel free to subscribe, and please stay safe. Later.